Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Dating Made Simple here on the It's Just Dinner podcast. I'm your host, Tom Robinson, and sitting right next to me, the Dr. Jekyll to my Mr. Hyde.
Oh, so clever.
Bob Walls.
How are you, Tom?
I'm doing well.
It's good. It's good to be here.
It's good to be. Nice to have you directly next to me.
It's always great to be here.
Guess what? Guess who's next to you?
Well, let me guess.
Our favorite.
Yes.
Macy.
I'm your favorite?
You
Well, you are our favorite always and forever.
Macy, the one that speaks for all women.
Yes.
You're on
I
the,
represent
She does.
everybody.
You're on
Thank
me.
goodness.
So
Thank goodness.
anything that the women have to say, Macy, you chime in, all right?
Okay, I can do that.
We're very excited today to have, and I know a lot of my students have been excited to have our guest with us today. Our guest today is Brad Wilcox, and Brad is the first counselor in the Young Men's General Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He also is a teacher here at BYU and teaches in the Department of Ancient Scripture.
Yeah, I'm doing some Book of Mormon classes this semester, and I just love it.
Amazing. Well, welcome. We're so excited to have you.
It's good to be here. Tom, Bob, Macy. This is, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed here sitting at this table with all these impressive people.
All of us,
Wow.
all the superstars.
All
here,
you
so.
superstars.
I feel like we're all on one side and just like staring
Yeah.
at you.
But just know that Macy carries this podcast. So
She
she's
does.
the one
That
that
is not true.
she's the one that kind of keeps us going. Well, one of the things, as you know, that we talk about here is dating, and that's what we do. And so I know you have done this forever and ever, and it's been something that's on your mind. And you were just telling us a second ago that it used to be when you'd say the word dating at one of your talks or speeches that people would flock to you.
Oh, yeah, because at EFY, which was the pre-version of FSY,
Right.
we used to put our titles out there, and we'd all notice that if we had dating in the title, then all the youth would come flooding to that class. But I've been doing that since the mid-'80s, 1985. And just from then till now if you put dating in the title of your class, then nobody comes. And so it's been really interesting to see that there was such an interest in this topic, and such an interest and such a curiosity about how do I do this, and how do I do it right, and how can I do it creatively, and how can I do it inexpensively. And now it's just like a taboo topic. You just don't want to even touch it.
What happened? Why is that?
Interesting.
No.
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
really interesting because what you're saying here really mirrors what research we've seen, and that is that not only in our culture, but in the United States and internationally, dating has diminished over the last several years. And there's a lot of reasons that people have come on, and a lot of it has to do with technology, and a lot of it has to do with the apps. Some of them are kind of scary, and so people don't want to participate in dating because there's an expectation that they don't agree with, and that people have just not been able to find locations to meet people. It used to be that you dated people at your work.
Oh, and we had dances.
Yeah, well, but even at work, you'd meet people at work, and now people are so afraid to approach someone at work and ask them on a date because you might lose your job. And so where do people meet people nowadays? Where do you go to meet someone to ask out on a date? And so there's a lot of reasons that they've done that, but it's interesting that our culture really mirrors the national and international culture, that people all around the world are not dating.
And I think the word itself has shifted meaning.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when I was growing up, they used to talk about necking and heading.
Yeah.
And I used to think, what the heck are they talking about? Because those were words that meant something to my parents'
Correct.
generation, but
Yeah.
not to us. And we've seen the same shift in the word dating. In fact, you'll notice that in the For the Strength of Youth guide that came out about a year ago, you'll notice the word dating isn't anywhere.
I did.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was purposely not there. It's not there because it means something different in so many different cultures.
Right.
I mean, in some cultures, dating means you're sleeping with someone.
Oh, God.
So
Oh.
are we sitting around saying, don't date until you're 16, don't sleep with anybody until you're 16?
Right.
And then in other cultures, dating is such a serious commitment
Right.
that in India, where we have 4 stakes of the church, there are, the parents were just horrified to read that you could date at age 16, because for them, dating meant a serious engagement.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
my gosh, you're not getting engaged at age 16. No way.
Well,
And
probably
so-
good. Probably good of those parents.
Yeah. But, you've got these different things. So listen to how beautifully it's phrased here in the booklet. It says, when and how should I get to know members of the opposite sex? The best way to get to know others is through genuine friendship.
Yes.
While you are young, build good friendships with many people. In some cultures, youth get to know members of the opposite sex through wholesome group activities. For your emotional and spiritual development and safety, one-on-one activities. That's how they're defining a date.
Yeah.
One-on-one activities should be postponed until you are mature. Age 16 is a good guideline.
Woohoo!
Counsel with your parents and leaders. Save exclusive relationships for when you are older. Spend time with those who help you keep your commitments to Jesus Christ. Now, that, I think, is the best dating advice
Beautifully written.
that could
Yeah.
ever be given, and it doesn't even say the word dating.
No, it does not.
No.
And it's not that we didn't notice the rewrite, Brad, because we have applauded this many, many times on our podcast here because we think this is so well worded. I mean, congratulate. Did you write this?
Oh, no.
Come on, go. You can tell us.
It's way
Come on,
above my
fine.
head.
But, but whoever did write this, I don't know who wrote it, but it's very well articulated. And that's what we advise on our pod. When you rewrite this, could you say it's just dinner? That would
We
really
could
help
say-
us out here
we
at our
could say here,
podcast.
we can say, see, it's just dinner podcast.
Yes, we're on Spotify.
Now-
you could put that
We'll
in
just
there.
Now, is
mention
it-
that to the prophets, seers, and revelators.
Okay,
is
See
it
how
only
far that
fair-
See
goes.
what we get back on that.
Is it only fair now that I take credit for what he just
Well,
wrote?
I think that you risk it. There's no lightning that I can see.
Well, since he's
outside, so-
here,
okay, go
Tom's
right,
been
go right
saying
ahead.
it for years. He's already been
throw
saying
your
it.
stuff
He's
out
got to
there.
say it now.
So,
Yeah.
so just so you know this, Brad, years ago, I started this as a bishop, and then I went on the fireside circuit. And the thing I used to talk about was that when we were growing up, or when our kids were growing up, it was don't one-on-one date. Go on group dates.
Group date.
And because I actually said it in the first Strength of Youth. So group dates, that's what you should do. And the kids weren't dating at all. And so in my firesides, I used to chastise the parents, the people my age, and say, you really messed up. You did not let these kids one-on-one date. And so you're the reason why this is messed up.
And
I
that's
used
why
to,
you have so many
I-
listeners that are parents.
Yeah.
You really do.
I
yeah.
used to really jump on because I wanted the kids to know where this came from because they felt like we're screwed up. We don't know why. And I said that I think that when it said in there that you should wait till you're ready to date, I said that should have been 16 and a half. Well, at one point, somebody in a stake presidency contacted me and says, hey, one of the 12 apostles, and I won't tell you which one, wants to see your slides from your presentation. I went, uh-oh. And then I sent them, and then I got an email back that says, Elder so-and-so and Elder so-and-so would like you to explain these slides. And so I nervously sent back a response, and then I never heard anything. And so I felt like they gave me the go-ahead to
So
keep
that's
doing it.
how you lost your
Mhm.
temple
And that's,
record.
that's what, see, that's what I was worried about. But I never heard anything, and so I kept doing what I'm doing, and then all of a sudden, this comes out in there. So
Oh, interesting.
I may not be. I'm taking credit for it. And so just all my listeners out there, I'm taking credit for it. I know that I have nothing to do with it, but I always tell everyone I did have something to do with
Tom
it.
wrote
So.
the entire For the Strength of Youth.
Yeah, next he's going to be claiming authorship of the Doctrine and Covenants.
Yeah. So, but I am thrilled that it's in there. I'm thrilled with the wording because what I'm hoping now, and you tell me, I'm hoping that parents will allow their young men and young women to one-on-one date.
Yeah.
And
But
to
it's-
teach them
it's-
the appropriate way to do that.
Yeah, and it says, for your emotional and spiritual development, one-on-one activities should be postponed until you are mature. Age 16 is a good guideline. Some kids aren't ready at that
No,
point.
no.
Other kids
No.
are.
Yeah.
But those one-on-one activities are important. But our society has such a bugaboo about it. Everybody's
Mhm.
just like, oh, no. The minute you say the word date, then everybody thinks it's like
Oh, yeah.
this close to you being engaged.
Oh, even here at BYU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my son used to complain. He'd say, all right, if I ask a girl out and then I don't ask her out again, then I'm a jerk. And if I ask a girl out and then I do ask her out again, then we're a couple.
Yeah.
All right.
And he said, it's that fast.
That's that.
I feel like there's like it's a balance of some people feel like it's like you go on one date, oh my gosh, you're gonna get married. But sometimes I think people take it almost too casually where they're like, it's just a date and it means nothing to me. And so I feel like there's gotta be some sort of switch somehow of like, yeah, let's like take this a little bit seriously. Like, okay, like at least let me like try to be interested in you or go on this date. But yes, you're right. There's some sort of
Well,
disconnect going
A
on
date
here.
should be an opportunity, and this is from the old for Strength of Youth. A date should be an opportunity for a young man and a young woman to get to know each other better. That's what a date should be. And if we defined it like that, that would be amazing. But the word makes a lot of people very nervous. But when a boy and a girl get together and go out somewhere, it should be an opportunity for them to get to know each other better. And that's it. They should talk and have fun together. And it certainly does not mean that you're a couple. Doesn't mean you're engaged. Doesn't mean you're getting married. It just means that two people went out and have fun. Guess what? Back when you and Bob and I were young, that's what it was.
Now,
Back when you were giving EFY stuff, that's what it was.
I tell my students in high school, I never went to a dance with the same girl.
Right.
I
Right.
went to every dance with a different girl. And then they all say, oh, you were a player.
That's
You were a
right.
player. And I'm like, me? A player? No. I just enjoyed getting to know people. And there was not an expectation. If I asked a girl to a dance, she was thrilled. We had a fun time. Sometimes we went in a group. Sometimes we went just the two of us. But she had a ball. And there was no
Right.
expectation
Right.
that, okay, the next dance, you better ask me or I'm going to fall into a depression and cry my eyes out. None of that. It was just like, it was much more casual. Now, that's like us saying, well, back in the day, gas only cost 29 cents a gallon.
No
I mean,
way.
That,
What?
yeah, she's like, what?
Right.
Yes, and they gave you prizes if you
Right.
filled your
Yeah,
tank
little
because
green
Prices
stamps.
like McDonald's
They
toys? Like, what are
wanted
we talking
to
here?
Yeah.
be able to get your business. So, I mean, going back, there's no way we can go back from where we are as a culture. So if I were going to give dating advice today, I would say, go do something together with someone. Go do Just Serve.
Yeah.
Go
Mhm.
go call some friends in your ward and say, we're going to make some cookies and deliver them at somebody's house. Or, hey, come with me. I'm doing some tutoring at an elementary school and I need some help.
That's a great idea.
Now,
Mhm.
that's what I would do. I wouldn't ask somebody out on a date. I would say, you know what? I've got this tutoring thing I'm doing at this school and I need a few more people on this day. Could you just come? Because then you can get to know each other while you're making the cookies,
Right,
while you're doing
right.
the service
Yeah,
project,
yeah.
while you're doing the tutoring. You can get to know each other. And from there, when you know somebody a little better, then you might be in a position to say, hey, I'd love to go out to dinner or
There you go.
come join me for dinner. But I wouldn't start with a date. Not in today's culture. I wouldn't say, I'd like to ask you out, because then every girl freaks out
Yeah.
because either she doesn't want to go and that's too formal, or she does want to go and then she makes too much of it.
Right.
So I would just say, instead of let's go out to eat, I'd say, hey, will you come help me with this service project?
Yeah,
Or will you
great
come help
idea.
me? I'm
Mhm.
raking a lady's leaves in my ward. Would you just come help me? And then maybe afterwards we can grab a bite to eat.
Love it.
Now, you can kind of understand this on the other side, the cultural pressure. We had a guest on, and she was a dating coach that worked mostly with people in the Baptist religion. And she said, our biggest problem in our religion is that culturally, there's a huge expectations for younger people to get married and start a family. And so we have a lot of people in our religion who move into marriage really quickly because everyone expects them to get married and start a family. So we were kind of surprised at that when they were telling us that, because we have that expectation here. If you look at getting on the covenant path and thinking celestial, all of that leads you to the temple. And so there is a cultural expectation that you need to push to creating a family. And so you can see why a lot of people are, because when you ask someone out on a date, that potentially could be the person you're going to marry, because that's what the expectation is of where you're going with this. And so that's one of the things that we try to debunk here is that relationship development has to come way before commitment And so just what you're saying, we call it, it's just dinner, but it could be,
It's
it's
just
just a
raking
service
leaves.
project.
It's
It's
just raking
it could be
leaves.
Right.
just, it's walking together in the park, or it could be just anything that facilitates you having a conversation with someone for about an hour. And research, it's interesting, research that's been done shows that the average date lasts 51 minutes. Isn't it amazing that there's research that's on that? And that if in the first 26 minutes of that 51, that there's a spark, meaning that you find something physically, emotionally, spiritually, or
intellectual.
intellectually that you have in common, there's generally a second date. And if there isn't, then you're just treading water the last 25 minutes to get out of it. And so it's interesting that there's see this much research on it. But so when you have any interaction with another person, if you have some kind of a spark, then you need to pursue that. You need to say, well, let's do this again. And that's how you develop a relationship, is over finding the things that you have in common.
Yeah, it's not by swiping
Right,
on an app, swiping up or down. That's not building relationship.
right.
Let's start with something gives us a little more time,
Yeah.
something that's not so physically focused, and let's get to know some people. You know, it's interesting because when they lowered the mission age, when President Monson announced the lowered mission age, they had this huge influx of people going on missions, both girls and boys. And there were more girls serving, which meant that there were a lot of young men and young women serving together.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because the Salt Lake Tribune, which isn't always friendly toward the church,
Wow.
I know, shocker, they were saying, well, this has been a failure because their convert baptisms haven't gone up dramatically. And so they were saying, oh, see, it was a failure. It was a failure. But when President Nelson was asked about it at one of the mission president seminars, one of the seminars for mission leaders, he was asked about it. And he said, they're being very short-sighted. He said the reason for the lowered age wasn't just to have more missionaries and more convert baptisms. He said, we will see the blessing of this lowered age and the blessing of this increase in missionaries 20 years from now. As they marry each other, as they raise families in the church, he says that's where we'll see the
Right.
blessing.
Mhm.
So is he saying we should be dating in the mission field? No, not at all. But he is saying that that's a natural, a
Right,
normal place where suddenly you're working together with no dating expectation.
right.
And elders and sisters are working together. They're united in a cause. They're getting to know each other.
Mm.
And they don't have the pressure of, oh my gosh, is he asking her out? Is she asking him out? Is
Right.
this guy like him or
Yeah.
her? Is this girl like him? You don't have that pressure. And so the mission actually becomes a very normal and natural place to get to know each
That's a
other.
really
Right.
good point.
And then later, if they want to pursue that, then they can.
We do see a lot of that here on campus. A lot of my students have married people they met on their mission. And the good thing about that is you're leading with your spirituality. And so they're seeing a side of you that you don't typically see when you're getting hamburgers or going to a football game, because what you're working on is a very spiritual nature. And so what endears you to somebody is their spirituality. And that's what you remember. You get home and you
Oh, that's
remember,
one of those
yeah,
one of those sparks.
yeah, the spark is a spiritual one rather than a physical or
Well, we have a former sister missionary here.
Oh, that would be me, guys.
Should we ask, should we ask her what she thinks?
No,
I mean,
I was actually just thinking, I totally agree that on the mission, I saw elders and sisters working together, and had they not gone on missions and they come back, not that they wouldn't be awesome and great, but they've just learned skills, social skills, how to talk
Yeah.
to people of the opposite gender and how to communicate with them. And it allows them to build relationships that way a lot easier.
Whenever I teach a mission prep class here on campus, and I used to teach many more than I do now, and now I'm in the department that doesn't have the mission prep classes, which is church history and doctrine. But when I do a mission prep class, one of the assignments was to minister, do your ministering
Right.
in person, not over text. And another assignment in the class, I mean, like I would give them points for this, was go on a date.
I love it.
Mm.
And they would say, well, this is a mission prep class. I shouldn't be dating. I said, no, dating is mission prep.
Yes.
I said,
Oh.
boys, would you please get out with a girl and she will teach you how to talk. She will teach you how to listen. You will learn how to carry on a conversation with somebody. Go do your ministering. Again, you're going to learn how to talk. You're going to learn how to listen. That's what you do when you're ministering. And that's what missionaries do. So get on a date to
Yes.
learn the social skills that will make you an effective missionary. Use them on your mission so that you can come back and be an effective dater. It just is a nice cycle. It's a nice circular where one reinforces the other and then the other reinforces the one.
I have to tell you that it's pretty exciting to hear the first counselor in the General Young Men's Presidency agree with everything I say.
Well, didn't you write my script
I did.
today?
Yeah, thank you for following the talking points.
Doing really well.
Tom,
Look at that.
Macy, wouldn't it sound so much better if he said it this way? I would just like to state that I agree with everything that the first counselor.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Don't you think that would help him?
Well, actually, two
Get to
apostles
heaven?
sent me
Hello.
a note and said, while you're
Check
on this
check on
podcast,
this
will
guy.
you please say this?
Check and make sure he's doing the right thing.
And then take
That's
his
awesome.
recommend with you when you.
Guys, I cannot tell you how refreshing it is to hear you say that, because that's what we want every young man to do. And especially when you get home, take those skills you learned and quit hiding in your bedroom. Remember what you learned. You did talk to sisters. You did talk to members of the ward, and go use those skills and go sit across from someone and talk to them for an hour.
And you didn't love some of the people you learned to love
Correct.
on your mission.
That's so accurate.
And you learned to love them. So how come then we come back into a dating world where it's all about swiping, all about that physical attraction, and suddenly you're not giving yourself a chance to learn to love or appreciate
Right.
someone?
Okay, we have you here. You've told us I agree with everything that you. By the way, I agree with everything the first counselor in the General Young Men's Presidency just said. So how do we fix it? How do we create more opportunities for these kids, these young adults, and that's in and out of the church? How do we create opportunities for them? I think President Reese is looking at this and he's seeing a problem and he's trying to create more opportunity. So what else can we do?
Well, I think, it's interesting. BYU just started a little class called, what is it, University 101 or
Yes.
something. And the idea of this is to give people a chance where they can get to know some people rather than just going to all these huge classes that
Yeah.
have 250 kids and they don't get to know anybody. But I think it's interesting that we're doing something that is also being tried and successful on other campuses. But we already have something that other campuses don't have, and that's a student ward,
Yeah, I was
a
going to say
young
family
single
home
adult
evening.
ward.
Yeah.
And so we're doing something, and I applaud the efforts of everybody who's been involved with it, because I think it will make a great difference. But by organizing these little cohorts, we're doing something that they've done on other campuses, and it's the only place it happens
Right.
on that campus. But I sure hope it's not the only place it happens here. I hope we're in some family home evening groups, and I hope we're in some ward groups, and I hope we're having activities, and I hope that we are having that chance to get to know people in the ward and to get to know people in small groups within the ward, because that also gives us a cohort that can be the support we need as we start navigating these waters. I think the second thing that we need to do, along with taking advantage of some of those small group experiences that we have through our wards, as well as through classes at BYU, but I think we also need to stretch just a little bit out of our comfort zones.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm always amazed. I was in the stake presidency at Heritage Halls, smallest geographic stake in the church. I mean, what is
Oh.
it? 1 block by 2 blocks? I mean, it's just small. And I was in the stake presidency, and I was always amazed, that we would have these activities, and the boys would all be in their dorm rooms playing Warcraft.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, this isn't the time to be bonding with the brethren. This is your chance to get out of your comfort zone enough to actually step up, say hi to somebody, say hello, introduce yourself, ask that person's name, where you're from. It's the easiest question in the world. Where are you from? Where are you from? Texas. Oh, I have a friend who served a mission there. What if they say Thailand? Oh, I have a friend who served a mission there. What if they say Idaho? Oh, I have a friend that served a mission there. And then that opens a conversation.
Right.
No pressure, no stress, nothing. And it's just a natural, easy way. And I'm just hoping that the young people who are listening to this might just go to a ward activity or go into a class at BYU, sit down next to somebody and say, where are you from?
Brian, I need you to come tell my FHE group. I'm the FHE mom over half the ward. And we only get like 10 to 15 people that come. And I'm like,
Oh, that's too bad.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
It's like stretch out of your comfort
Come
zone,
on,
people.
guys.
Come
I-
on.
I'd like your opinion on this, Macy, because we did some research in our stake, and we talked to several of the young men and young women. A lot of the young men said, I do not date girls in my ward.
I've heard that a lot.
Because if it doesn't work out, I don't want to feel uncomfortable coming to church.
It's like my son said, if you date somebody and don't ask her out again, then you're a creep, and the
Right.
whole ward knows it.
Right.
And I just think it is kind of unfair. But
Mhm.
a ward group isn't the only small group that you have access
Right.
to here on campus.
That's true. I also think, though, that people need to get over that because at the end of the day, once you find the one, it doesn't matter. You're not really probably going to be friends, so to say, with that person later on. Like,
Mhm.
you either date them and you get married to them, or you don't date them, you marry someone else, and you're not friends with them.
So in other words, every girl that marries a guy is marrying somebody else's creep.
Yeah, if you put it like that, yeah.
I think that's what you said, Macy.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said.
So
Mhm.
so I mean, it really, if that's what you're saying, then let's get over it.
Yeah.
Please.
Let's
Yeah.
let's just date wherever we are in the ward, in your FHE.
Well, and
Come to
again,
FHE.
You can clear this up for us, is that a lot of times in the wards, the bishopric acted as dating coaches or dating facilitators. And so they'd say, okay, everybody who wants to go, take a name out of here. And it was so terrifying. Or they'd say, okay, in the elders quorum, pick somebody that you want to ask on a date. And the same girls got asked every time. And so it was embarrassing for them. And the girls who didn't get, they were mortified. And so in the wards, it was kind of interesting because every semester in these wards, you would get a new crop of 18 and 19-year-old girls that would come in, and all the boys would be interested in dating them. And the girls who were older than that, nobody paid any attention to them. And so they hated the younger girls because that was their competition. And so there's a lot of dynamic that goes into this. But one of the things that we tried to do is to tell the bishops, stop trying to be dating facilitators, because it makes it awkward to come to church. And so if you meet somebody from the church and you develop a relationship, but that's different than them getting up and trying to facilitate dating in this awkward way that sometimes we try to do.
Yeah,
as
I would
elders.
say the bishopric should be focused on their job, and that's bringing these kids to Christ and helping them feel strengthened through the grace of Christ. But they should also be facilitating small group activities. That's something they can facilitate. That's not dating.
right.
That's just, hey, I'd like these apartments. Why don't you guys get together and do an activity? And let's have the elders quorum do an activity. And let's have the Relief Society do the activity and invite each other. If we can facilitate just some activities, it's like a mission. I never have heard a mission president being accused of being the dating facilitator.
Sure.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
But notice what happens. As
Right.
they have district meetings, as they have zone meetings, as they have zone conferences, as they're working together in service,
Mhm.
then people are getting to know each other.
Right.
But it's not because the mission president or his wife are trying to bring elders so-and-so and sister so-and-so together.
Right.
It's because they're just facilitating opportunities for people to work together and to work effectively in the Lord's service. And if bishops and bishoprics, Relief Society presidencies can be focused just on that, then the dating and the development of these relationships will come as the side benefit and not the star of the show.
Right. And Macy can maybe tell me if this is the same way, but we had a lot of complaints because the youth would say, the bishopric members come to me and they say, are you dating? And I think that's why dating has become such a bad word, because it's almost accusatory. Yet nobody wants to admit, well, no, I'm not. And then have the bishopric member say, well, here's sister so-and-so.
Listen,
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
pay elder so-and-so, I'll pay this brother
Right,
$5
to take you out. And
Oh, that's terrible.
and so the whole idea of are you dating is terrifying to a lot of the young men and young women for some older person, the bishopric member, to ask them that, especially in public. And so sometimes I don't think we as church leaders think clearly about what we're doing. We're trying to solve a problem, but the way we're doing it is creating a bigger problem. And I think that's why the word dating has become so offensive,
Taboo.
taboo to people because it's been used so many times as "Are you dating?"
What about this? What if someone who felt confident in their dating went to the bishop and said, "Hey, I am wondering who in the ward is not dating. Who do you think I should take on a date?"
Right.
Is that okay? Is
Well, you
that
should take them to dinner,
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yes,
and you
it
should
would
sit
be
and
just
talk.
dinner.
You
Yeah,
should sit
no,
and
no.
talk.
I just I think that's a great idea because as long as you don't come to them, they come to say, "Hey, the bishop told me that I should." That nobody's asking you out, and so I should ask you out as a charity. Nobody wants to feel like
Well,
the
yeah,
charity
yeah.
thing, but everyone, and that's another thing we've explored too. And Tom will recall this that many times the young women would come to the bishop and they'd say, "No one's asking me out. What's wrong with me?" And so we've kind of created this culture that if you're not going out, you're not being asked out, there's something wrong with you. And so that would help that as long as they didn't feel like they were assigned to home teach.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I'm
home.
thinking more like girls asking guys.
Well, now we come to a good question here. We talk about we advocate on this podcast that girls should start asking out. How does the General Young Men's Presidency feel about that?
Okay, I think without officially stating anything from the General Young Men Presidency,
This is just Brad Wilcox, the BYU teacher.
yeah, I think it concerns me. Why? Because girls ask a guy out? No, that's fine. I don't mind that a girl asks a guy out, but I do mind that a guy isn't stepping up to the
Yeah,
plate.
there
Yeah,
you go.
well,
Okay.
I do mind that girls are like, well, we can ask the boys at a dance, and I think, yeah, you can, but you don't want to. You really don't.
Yeah.
You want to have the boy come and ask you.
Does a boy want to do that though? Does he want to go and ask the girl? That's like scary either way, right?
I know,
Mhm.
but that's what a boy needs to learn.
Got you.
He needs to learn to go ask a girl to dance. He needs to learn. And if the girls are always doing his job for him
Mm.
and making it easy for him, well, I'll just wait till the girls come and ask me. I'm not going to go ask a girl to dance. I'll
And-
just wait till they
And
come
we've
and ask
heard
me.
we've heard that a lot. Actually, good boys say, "Well, no girls are asking me out." And
Yeah.
Really? Where have you heard that?
Well,
in,
but
our, in our stake all the time.
In all fairness, though, I don't think we want the girls sitting home alone. And I think there's a responsibility. There's some good that will come out of it if they aren't home, and you're faced with depression and other kinds of anxieties. And so it's okay just to say to the guy, "Hey, do you want to go get a soda? Do you want to go get a cookie?" And that way she has someone to talk to. She gets out of the apartment. Maybe she helps him get out of the apartment, and
Which
both of
is
them together
great.
get to meet each
Mhm.
other, get to talk. And so that's when
Nobody
I
here-
tell girls, I said, look, don't sit home alone, because there are boys who are afraid to ask. So just go ask someone to go out to dinner with you.
and nobody here would ever disagree with you.
No, it
Right.
doesn't.
And to your point,
But-
in long-term relationships, men need to step it up.
Yes.
Yeah, they need to take charge here of their lives.
Because then the girl, it just
Right.
builds her
Oh,
so
yeah.
much.
So true.
And if I don't see a boy saying, the cutest girl just asked me to dance, but when a boy has the courage to go ask a girl to dance, then he'll brag to his friends, I just asked the neatest girl to dance. And there's something about that. Now, somebody's going to be listening to this and say, oh, that's not a politically correct point of view, Brad. But I do think, especially when we consider our Latter-day Saint culture, there is a responsibility that young men have to bless the lives of others. It is a priesthood responsibility.
Oh, yes.
And that we don't want to take away from them by doing their ministering for them.
Well, how do we convince them to do that? Because I agree with what you're saying, but over the years, I haven't been able to get them to do
Well,
that.
we tried threats of physical violence. Didn't
Didn't work.
You know, it was worth a try. We
So-
tried it, but it didn't work.
But I mean, right here, this Friday, we'll have tons of boys sitting home alone. And you're right, they should take on that mantle. How do we convince them? What can we do here on this podcast that we could do to help them to take on that responsibility?
To just say, don't be afraid, step it up. I read a book called Of Boys and Men, and it was just talking about how boys are getting left in the dust. We
Hmm.
can't let that happen. You go down a hall in a high school and you've got girl power posters and you've got scholarship night for girls. When was the last time I saw a poster that said scholarship night
Never.
for boys?
Never.
When was the last time I saw a poster that said boy power? I just don't. Our culture is stifling the young men. And where there used to be a script that said, you are responsible to ask the girl out. You are responsible to propose to the girl. You, Prince Eric, are supposed to save Ariel. And no, what do we have now? A remake of the movie in which Ariel saves Prince Eric.
Right.
Now, I'm not taking anything away from our young women. I want them to have scholarship nights. I want them to have girl power, and I want them to go out and save the world. But does it have to be at the cost?
Right. They should step up together.
Losing our young men? Can't our young men share that responsibility without just cowering in their mom's basements at age 35 playing video games? Come on, young men.
Step it up.
Step it.
I love that. It's going to be our new mantra.
I think it is.
Step it up.
We're going to change this.
Come
to the
on.
Step It Up podcast.
Come on, young men, step it up.
Dating made simple. Step it up.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think it's
I like
great.
it
I
too.
love everything that you said. Now, you did mention dances, and I just want to bring up this point really quick, is that BYU used to have dances all the time. And when Bob was in the stake presidency, his stake used to have dances all the time. I just wish that we would do that more. And I don't know, I just love watching the kids dancing and having a good time.
So,
And-
student association
BYUSA's.
Yeah, step it up.
and wards and stakes that service this campus and young single adults, step it up. You should have seen 20,000 plus young single adults that gathered for the largest young single adult conference last August, right in Salt Lake City. It was incredible. And the young people just came out of the woodwork to come and participate. And they had a concert and they sang, "I'm trying to be like Jesus" in the Delta Center. And they had dances and service projects and devotional with Elder Christofferson that filled the Marriott Center.
Love it.
Now, if we can pull that off in the Utah area, then surely, and it was planned and organized by young single adults. Young single adults, step it up. Don't wait for grown-ups to give you permission to have a dance. And don't wait for grown-ups to plan your young single adult conference. You get together, you plan it, you take it to the grown-ups. They'll help you get funding. And let's get this show on the road.
There you go.
Wow.
Macy?
All I have to say is that was a good mic drop right there.
That
I was going to say, I would think we have to leave right now.
I know. I think just hit the
So-
microphone off the table and we'll call it.
Okay,
good.
last question before we go. Macy, how do we do what he just said? Because I couldn't agree more with what he just said. So you're a young woman here at BYU. What do you say?
I think that people that are listening that are passionate about this, that want to go out and date, go talk to your bishop, go talk to your stake president, talk to BYUSA.
Say, what holiday is coming up? Let's have a dance.
Let's have a party. Yeah, let's get people together. Let's get those small groups. Let's get those big groups going so that you can just have a place to meet people besides the simple ones that you already know.
I love it.
That was a good mic drop. too,
Wow,
right?
that's two in a row. Bob, you
Yeah.
got one?
No, I don't. I got nothing, man.
I got nothing either.
Nothing to follow that.
Well, Brad, thank you very much. Wow. I just absolutely agree with everything you've said. You've been a wonderful guest. I really hope that our young men and young women are listening. I agree. Young men, step it up. It's time for you to do something. So thank you for being here. I
No,
really
thank
appreciate you
you.
taking your time and coming here.
I appreciate you taking on a hard topic and speaking about it in a very open and honest and faith-promoting way, a hopeful way. I love what you're doing, and I hope that this reaches many, many, many young people.
Thank you.
Because you're making a difference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate it. And that's really what we want to do on this podcast. And it's really about helping you guys and encouraging you to go out. We want you to go and get one-on-one and just talk to each other and get to know each other and have fun. Macy, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Bob, thank you.
Great. Always.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yes.
Geez, we got to make sure every guest is as good as this one now.
Well, it's gonna be
Macy, you're just knocking it out of the park. Wow.
This one was you, Tom. This
Well-
one was all you.
Thank you guys for listening, and make sure you check us out on our Instagram page at Dating Made Simple. And also check out our website. It's at Dating Made Simple, IJD for It's Just Dinner. And we'd love to have your comments. You can hit us up on DMs and tell us what you think. Tell us your bad date stories, your funny date stories. We'd love to hear those. I think we have a bad date story episode coming up, so everybody keep listening for that. Well, thanks for listening. And remember, just go have fun out there, would you?